Hi guys, we're going to look at how the developments in the Michael Vaughn case may be affecting how people are reacting to the Summer Wells case. So in the Michael Vaughn case, initially in the beginning stages of Michael going missing, a lot of people right off the bat had questions regarding Tyler Vaughn, the father. What did he know? What was he not telling us? We knew right from the beginning that mom, Brandy, was at work. So, she was cleared in the public's opinion right from the beginning, but not so much for Tyler. Now, the family had a lot of support, but they also had a lot of critics. And I'm not going to lie, I was one of them. Not that I was dead set one way or the other on whether or not I believed that Tyler was in any way responsible for Michael's disappearance, but I certainly had a lot of questions. Had this child really gone missing in the length of time that it took the dad to change a diaper and order some pizza? Just like the Summer Wells case, to accept abduction, we had to accept that either the child was targeted or it was a crime of opportunity. That is really the only two ways that the abduction theory works. And in the Vaughn case, that meant that little Michael, in this very short period of time when dad was, busy doing other things, the child wanders outside and the person who is, waiting on him, stalking him, targeting him, just happens to be there and take that opportunity, or a complete stranger sees this child in that very short period of time and swoops him up, irregardless of the fact that the mother or father, could come out of the house, a neighbor could come out, a child from another house could walk out at that very moment. Very similar to the Summer Wells case, because when people throw around the abduction theory, one of the first, thing that a naysayer will comment is, come on, what are the chances up on Ben Hill Road, where it is a little bit, isolated, a whole lot remote, very just very rural, and not the kind of place where you would necessarily be unless you lived there, knew someone there, or had some kind of business that you were attending to. Now, of course, it could very well be that, somebody in Summer's life was targeting her, or that perhaps somebody drove on to the property, took a wrong turn, was looking for a different address. I guess there could be another reason why somebody would be there. But again, grandma is in the trailer, not but 100, feet away. There's siblings in the house. Mom is a stay-at-home mom, so she's there. And a stranger, if it's a stranger abduction, a stranger is going to just get lucky enough to see the child and grab her at that very moment, not be afraid of all the other people that are kind of milling around and could come at any moment. So both cases kind of had that feeling to it of, I don't know, it just, I guess whether it was really rural, like 110 Ben Hill Road, or where there was more neighbors, like in the Vaughn case, each one had a reason why you kind of felt like that seemed unlikely. But as it would turn out, in the Vaughn case, a neighbor directly diagonal from the Vaughn home would be arrested. And she, Sarah Wondras, would be charged with failing to report a death. Now, I do want to say this. It's interesting that it's failure to report a death. Death can mean a lot of things. It doesn't mean that the child was murdered. There's a theory going around that Michael was wandering around knocking on doors looking for a friend to play with. And this is confirmed by a neighbor that he was knocking on doors and asking, if anybody could come out to play. Could somebody from that home, from the Wondras home, have backed up and hit little Michael with a car and then freaked out? It's plausible. Now, of course, you would say, well, why on earth would anybody not just report it? I mean, why would they freak out and then hide the fact that they ran over a child? It would be tragic, but I mean, it wouldn't be a crime if you didn't see the kid. It would be an accident. Well, I mean, look at the case of little Athena, where, the UPS driver, at least that's what he's claiming, is that he accidentally hit her and then he, got scared shitless and then, he attempted to hide her. And if there was an accident in the Summer Wells case, which is really floating out there, it's a very popular theory, that's kind of what a lot of people are thinking, is that there was an accident and somebody or multiple people got really scared, panicked, and covered up an accident. So we don't know yet in the Michael Vaughn case what and who and how, the whole thing happened. The who, what, when, where, why, how remains a mystery, because Sarah has an extended stay at the state mental hospital. She was found to be unfit to answer for her charges, and her stay at the mental hospital has been extended at least through March 20th. So depending on when you see this video, that might be different. But as of right now, that's extended through March 20th. I mean, you do get a sense that she was a little bit unbalanced if you're watching her TikToks or looking at her social media. Everything with her constant rantings, her religious rantings are just really kind of unsettling. And not to say that if you're very religious, that you must be unhinged. Even if you are an extreme evangelistic Christian, you can be a very sane, well put together person. But there's something about her rantings and that of her husband, Stacy, that really just have a bizarre, really, really bizarre feel to it. And so one of their roommates, and they seem to have Grand Central Station and just an open door policy for anybody and everybody who wanted to come and couch surf with them. One of them was a man by the name of Brandon Shirtliff. And Brandon, along with another person who had stayed at the house at least for some period of time, at least a couple of weeks, Adrian Lucien, and I hope I'm saying these names correctly, were also called out and wanted for questioning in the disappearance of Michael Vaughn, that they were believed by the police to have knowledge of what happened to Michael Vaughn. And the police have touched base with both of them and spoke to them. And Brandon actually did a YouTube interview with Jonathan Lee Riches. And in that interview, he pretty much gave himself and Adrian and Sarah an alibi for the day that Michael Vaughn went missing. He gave this, whole rundown of all the many places that they had been that day. They went to Popeyes and they were at the mall and they were here and they were there and they were taking somebody's car to be towed. I mean, they were doing it all. And you would think that those places would all be verified. But that still left Stacy blowing in the wind. No alibi for him, because according to Brandon, he was left home all day. Now, other names have floated around in the case as well. A man by the name of Caesar was, heavily speculated upon. And who knows? Who knows? Because it does sound like there was just people in and out of that house constantly. But the only names that the police have floated around was both Brandon and Adrian. Now, Stacy and Sarah are both currently incarcerated. The other two gentlemen are not. So, we don't know what we can believe as far as what Brandon has said. but he did kind of lay out the time frame for that afternoon, and that they were gone all day and they didn't return until after the point that everybody was already looking for Michael. If at some point Stacy either left and, hit the child and then told his wife and friends when they returned and they helped him cover it up, that sounds possible or more realistic than the thought that they went off for the day, for lunch and all these other things. And then what? Stacy just got up and looked outside, and Michael was trotting down the street, and he decided to go out and grab him and, do something god awful to him. It's unimaginable. But, look, it seems like everybody in the Vaughn case, I don't mean the parents, I mean everybody else, has extensive criminal records, and Caesar had probably the worst one, not in terms of numbers, but in terms of what the charges were. One, including lewd and lascivious on a small person. And a lot of people say that he looks like the person that we saw video footage of who was by the splash pad. Because if you remember, there was a point where they talked about somebody roaming around the splash pad area. But I don't think it's been confirmed, because it looks like Caesar may have been incarcerated at that time. And I can't seem to confirm that. So if anybody else can or has, please let me know. At least maybe since like the month prior to the disappearance, but I don't know. But my whole point is, when all this happened, and lo and behold, it did turn out that it looks like little Michael's disappearance was just as horrible and random as you could imagine. It never was either one of the parents, and it did happen just like that it was evening, but it was still light out, with the possibility of neighbors coming and going, and anybody could have walked out of the house, and yet this horrific thing still happened, however it happened. Then we have the Wells, who have so many different theories flying around out there. But for the most part, people have kind of said, I don't know. I mean, abduction just seems really unlikely. Well, it seemed really unlikely in the Michael Vaughn case as well. Not that we know that Michael was necessarily abducted, but you know what I'm saying? Like, something happened and it wasn't the parents. So when we go back and we look at the Summer Wells case and we go back to the beginning of the case, it still has a possibility that we may be just as shocked when it all comes out in the light as we were or many of us were in the Michael Vaughn case. When we look at Ben Hill Road, again, abduction seeming highly unlikely. But remember that Don Sherfy, the neighbor, did say that Summer was known to wander down as far as the main road. And we don't think that Candace is being completely 100% honest about the time frame. I don't even think most of her biggest supporters believe that. I think that is very likely that Summer was probably unattended for a longer period of time than Candace would have us believe. Did little Summer wander down to that road, making crime of opportunity a lot more of a realistic, theory if she were down there versus if she were hanging around on her property, somewhere between grandma's trailer, her house, or sitting in her own basement among her toys. That's a possibility. Do you think that the developments in the Michael Vaughn case have made people feel any differently towards possibilities in the Summer Wells case? Or do you think that it has no bearing on it whatsoever? I will say this for myself. I've always said accident in the Summer Wells case. The Michael Vaughn case, I didn't have a strong opinion one way or the other, but I did think that probably Tyler knew more than he was saying. And I was a little annoyed at mom's stand by her man attitude, is how I saw it at the time. And that, she was doing everything right, which is why she got so much support, unlike Candace Wells. She was always out there. She was pushing her son's picture. She was doing every interview she could do. She was doing everything to make sure that Michael's name and photo stayed out in the public eye and that his story would not be forgotten and that people would continue to look for him. And then there was Dad, who was the last person to see the child, who was really just kind of out in the background. And, look, I've never had a child go missing, and who am I to say? And I think that Dad felt really guilty because he was the last one there, and, Michael slipped away on his watch and all of that. But at the time, being that the child was still missing, I felt like we really want to hear from Dad. Like, you were the last person, come forward, talk, tell, the events as they unfolded and not through, third person by having Mom do it. Not that we have any right to demand that he do that. He only has to talk to the police, certainly not to us. But, as we all became, really invested in this this emotionally, we certainly wanted to hear from Dad. And I think it was off-putting to a lot of people when he just wasn't there. He just wasn't public. And I guess for me, that probably started me feeling a little ill at ease. But then, there was just the story in itself. I mean, the poor man goes to order pizza and change the baby, and, poof, the child is gone. And we know that stranger abductions are extremely rare. They may feel like they're not because of TV and because of the World Wide Web, and so you hear stories daily from all over the world. But realistically, looking at FBI statistics, they're not very common. When a child goes missing, it's going to typically be somebody that is in the child's life or has good access to the child. A stranger abduction is very rare. So when you added all those things together, naturally, you're going to kind of like look around first at the people close to the child. And, for me, I questioned Tyler in my own mind. Luckily, I was never nasty about it on any video. I think once I kind of just said to like Brandy, if it were me, I would probably be a little more pushy towards getting, Dad out there and by my side as we try to put our story out there. But in the Summer Wells case, we know that it has been, for all the supporters that they have, there is a huge majority of people that not only suspect their involvement, one or the other or both, but are very vocal about it and not at all nice about it. And the Wells have said and done some things publicly, I think, that have perpetuated, the feeling that this is probably a group of people that has more going on than they're being honest about. And I think for me, I've never been really, really, I don't think, nasty towards Candace, other than to say I think it was an accident. I think she freaked out and I think she covered it up. I think I was a little maybe nasty in a couple of videos as far as maybe her potential inappropriateness with Hunter. Look, whatever. If she gave the kid a twisted tea, like, I don't agree with it, but like, whatever. A lot of people do that. They let teens drink. Better that they do it here and safe. They're going to do it anyway, yada, yada, yada. I don't believe in it. I don't do it. But as far as inappropriate other types of conduct between the two, I think I was maybe a little not nice about that, even the possibility of it. As far as Dawn, yes, I've I said some things along the way. But I will say this. After the Michael Vaughn situation, I've had to kind of go back to the beginning of the Summerwells case and look at it through a fresh set of eyes and say, okay, now knowing that this happened in the Michael Vaughn case, is it possible that as unlikely as a stranger abduction, as unlikely as that would be anyway, but then as unlikely as it would be that that would happen on Ben Hill Road, given the geography, given just how remote it is, and what the terrain is like, and the fact that it's not an area that would really, I don't want to say not be accessible, but I mean, we have heard that it's really not that easy to get up the hill in a car. Could the child have gone off the hill? You know, what are the other possibilities that could make it more of a possibility? Or does the Michael Vaughn case like have nothing to do with it? And even though that turned out to be as unbelievable as it is, you know, I guess not stranger, kind of stranger, because the Vaughns didn't know them. They just lived diagonal from each other. So I guess that would still be a stranger. But since that did turn out to be, even though we don't know exactly the exacts of it, we know that it turned out to have something to do with the neighbors over there and not the Vaughns. What does that mean now for the Wells case? Do we need to open up the possibility that we've been wrong all along on that? Or at the very least, continue to investigate all possibilities, but maybe not as harshly because we could be wrong? Or, you know, or does it just not even really matter? Because in reality, after the Wells case has come and gone, and God willing, we have some resolution, there'll be another case, and you know, we'll dive right in, and you know, we'll tear that case apart too. And is that okay? Is that fair? If a child is missing, is it wrong, you know, to go all in, and it really doesn't matter whose feelings you hurt as long as you find the truth? Because I think that has some validity to it. But it is unfortunate when you are wrong, right? If you've said and done some things that may have been very unkind. So tell me your thoughts on it. Like, do we need to be more watchful and more sensitive of the things that we say, because potentially we could be talking about completely, absolutely innocent people? Or is it all fair and, you know, it's open season because there's a missing child? And as long as we are, you know, looking deeply into every single person in that child's life, it's okay. It's all good, because the child has not been found. And until she is, or, you know, in that case he, but in this case she, it's fair game. I'll tell you this, let me be honest with you. My child ever goes missing, me personally, I don't care. You could tear me apart. You can bring out my innermost secrets. You can bring out my, you know, my darkest hours. You can put it on display. You can go after my husband. Like, you can go after my kids, like my older kids. You could do whatever you want until you find my child, because at the end of the day, that is the only important thing. And as long as all eyes and ears are looking for my child, I really don't, I couldn't care less what you say about me. That would be me personally. But I can see how, if you truly are a victim because your child is missing and everybody's just, you know, ripping you apart, and you're absolutely completely innocent, that it would be like super traumatizing. I get it. Tell me your thoughts on it. Did the Michael Vaughn case and the developments change anything for you in the Summerwells case, which is now, you know, it's pretty wild again. We knew that was going to happen when John got out. Things are amping up, as we knew that they would. So tell me what you think, and I'll see you soon. Bye.